All right, welcome to week 7, day 1. So there's a typo on one of the questions on the midterms. So when I threw it out, it apparently invalidated everybody's midterms. So I'm going to have to go through and copy all of your grades over into a new column because Canvas sucks at doing quizzes. Even when I manually enter your grades, it doesn't update. So I'm going to have to make a new column, copy the grades over. I'll get that done as soon as class is over here. I don't want to waste any class time on this. So let's, I guess, review the test. You guys did pretty well on it. So if you look at the test results, whenever they come up here, you'll see that whenever it comes up here, it should be around a 90%. So there we go. So yeah, 90% was the modal. So that's actually a really good distribution for you guys. There's a couple of people down in the 20s and 30s, which is, I think, below guessing, which it's a little bit depressing. So yeah, if you're in this range, please review the concepts more. They're not going away. They're going to be on the next midterm too. Okay. So for the truth tables, looks like about 80% of you guys got that, 80 to 90% depending on the number. The thing is, like, you have to do X ORed with not Y, so the first and the third columns get ORed together. I'm sure some of you guys ORed these two together. The midterm sample was harder because I was posting memes last time, stolen from my friends' Facebook pages. And it can be hard. It's like a word problem, you know, in math, where it's harder because you have to kind of decipher what's going on and understand what's happening here. So again, truth tables, 80 to 90% of them were correct. So I'm not going to review truth tables again. You should, if you don't know them, please go over it in the side books again. They're going to keep coming up too, especially if you're entering any major that uses truth. Computer science, obviously, computer scientists use truth tables. Philosophy as well. I don't know, probably law or something like that. They probably use them too. I don't know. Okay. 93% of you guys got this one. So I'm only going to go over the ones that didn't have a large number of students getting correct, so we don't waste too much class time today. So this one was an appeal to ignorance. However, I don't know how it happened, but on Canvas it displayed as appeal to authority, because again Canvas sucks at doing tests, and so I don't know. So I threw this one out. I made it worth 0 points, but then that invalidated all of your grades, and even if I manually enter your grades, it barfed on it. So I just need to make a new grade column and copy the grades over. I'm going to round up your grades too. So yeah, you get this point for free, and then you know, if you got partial on another one, I'll just round it up for you guys, because I am a generous professor. 83%. I believe that Trump won the election because the CEO of MyPillow.com, which it's a weird reality we live in, but this is actually a true thing. The CEO of MyPillow.com was heavily involved in the election outcomes and was possibly, according to telephoto lenses of documents he carried into the White House, suggesting that Trump institute martial law and stuff like that, which is a weird timeline we live in. Appeal to ignorance. How is this appeal to ignorance? We don't know why. We don't know X, therefore Y is an appeal to ignorance. If you don't know X, you can't derive any conclusions from it. So it's an appeal to ignorance. It's that form. It's that exact form of argument. So that is an ad verecundium, which is appeal to authority, appeal to improper authority, especially because running a pillow company. And I think they sell pillow accessories and I don't know, as well. It doesn't make you an expert on elections. And if you're like, oh, he's attacking the right wing. Well, here is a Democrat making a fallacy, right? And then here is a libertarian, right? I've said it before and I'll say it again. I am very, very, very careful. Because politics use fallacies all the time. you have to bring it up. But I will ensure that it is a 1-to-1 balance across the board on basically everything I do in this class. I hope you guys walk away from this class having absolutely no idea what my personal beliefs are. I think I've told you guys I'm not a fan of the deflationary theory of truth, so there you go. Work with that, what you will. So the Hank Hill of pillows, correct? Yeah, that's what I was going for. I sell pillows and pillow accessories. So exactly. You're right that I should vote Libertarian, but that would mean I'm throwing away my vote, so I won't. So this is an appeal to consequences, right? I don't like the outcome, so I won't do it, or I won't believe it, or I won't accept it. It's perhaps even reasonable, right? Like if a lot of people make this argument, like there's like 40% of Americans are independents, and yet everybody seems to vote for either Democrats or Republicans in the national elections. Fallacy of okay, so 79% on this one. So an aggregate rock is made up of small rocks like sand. So technically this could go kind of either way, is either fallacy of composition or fallacy of division. So which way you're driving the inference, is kind of up to you. That's why I didn't put both of them on here. So if an aggregate rock is made up of small rocks like sand, an aggregate rock is just sand. So you could argue that's a fallacy of composition, or you could argue that sand is aggregate rock, either way. My building in Valheim is made of solid objects that have no open space in it. Therefore, my building in Valheim has no open space in it. Right? Clearly not true, and it's a fallacy of composition, because what is true of the parts is not true of the whole, necessarily. This is a true fallacy, and you guys got this one, but it is amusing, so I'll mention it. Every time I've booked a flight to Japan on Singapore Airlines, a major disaster has struck Japan afterwards. So if I do go this summer, I will think twice before flying on Singapore Airlines. I will perhaps book Hawaiian Airlines, because I actually enjoyed that last time. Having a layover in Hawaii, it's kind of nice. I came back from a month-long trip to Japan, and then got to see the Pearl Harbor. Got to see the Pearl Harbor. It was a national monument. Just don't tell no one you go in. Hey, my shoulder is sore. I just got my first COVID vaccine this morning, about 9 o'clock in the morning. So, yeah, just don't tell anyone. Yeah, I was like talking to a childhood friend of mine in Japan. I'm like, hey man, I'm coming out. He's like, cool, good to see you. And 5 hours later, I call him like, hey dude, you're in Sendai, right? He's like, yeah. I'm like, are you alright? Because like Sendai just got wiped out by the tsunami and stuff. He's like, yeah dude, don't come. It's not a good... just cancel your flight, dude. It's not a good time to come to Japan. That 9.1 or whatever that was, man, that was... I was just sitting there and watching television, just like buildings coming inland. Oh. Yeah. So sorry about that. Okay. You say I'm a criminal because I took bribes from criminals to look the other way, but I say, don't you like money too? Yeah, that would be a two quote. You too. Right. In fact, I put it in here. You too. It's actually literally in the fallacy. My bad, Professor Kearney. Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about the coronavirus thing too, because I booked another flight on Singapore Airlines and coronavirus. It's all my fault. Sorry. So this here is from South Park. I don't know if you guys were aware of that, but 98% of you guys did catch on that was a classic red herring fallacy. That is the Chewbacca Defense. It is quite famous. If you go into law, lawyers all know the Chewbacca Defense. So, what fallacy is person B doing? I think we should head up to Snow for the weekend. What? Why are you trying to give us COVID-19? Strawman. Right. Mischaracterizing somebody's argument. Local seaside teacher causes worldwide destruction. Exactly. Well, there's only one way to find out. I'll book Singapore Airlines again, and then if Godzilla comes out and starts smashing Japan, be like, okay. All right, maybe it is causation. If I do it 3 times, and we'll just write it off as causation at that point. Okay, what fallacy is this? We know the Gospel of Matthew. Oh yeah, so this is actually a very serious argument. So people actually make this argument without any irony or awareness. They're making a circular argument, and so the dating of the Gospels is actually a very interesting concept because the Gospels don't have any dates on them and things like that. And so people have tried dating Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John at different times. And so since people think that Matthew and Luke come after Mark, and so one of the things they look at is the destruction of the temple. Jesus in the Gospels looks at the temple and says that not one stone will still be standing in a few years. The Romans come in as part of the repression of the the Sycarite uprising in the 60s and wipe out. I mean, it was a horrible war, and the siege of Jerusalem was just absolutely brutal, and they tore down the temple brick to brick. And so people who date the Gospels will make this argument unironically. They'll say, well, because we know that Jesus was just a man and not the Son of God, then he could not have made a legitimate prophecy. Therefore, we have to post-date it to after the destruction of the prophecy, and so assuming your conclusion, is basically circular reasoning. And so rather than maintaining, in my opinion, like academic neutrality, we're not talking about theology, we're not talking about priests and pastors and that kind of stuff, but people that are in the sort of academia who are, in my opinion, supposed to maintain neutrality on the subject, right? Like you're not really supposed to rule on if a religion is correct or not, are sort of doing so and engaging in circular logic to do so, which kind of bothers me a little bit. As a critical thinking person, it's just like, don't do that. Don't assume your conclusion, dude. It's bad reasoning. Okay. So there's also this is not me, but this is a true story that there was a person I know that stopped buying books from Tor. They're a big fantasy publisher, because they got a series of books from them, like 2, not like a series, but like 2 of them that had loose bindings or whatever. And so they concluded from that Tor was a non-quality publisher and stopped buying books from them. Wizards of the Coast had that problem for sure with some of their rule books. The spines of the rule books would come apart. Godzilla's a national hero. Have you not seen the movies? Godzilla is a bad man, but he's also a good man. So, yeah. He does destroy Tokyo a hell of a lot, too. All right, so here we've got, again, one from the Antifa perspective, one against the Antifa perspective. Again, I have friends that support Antifa, and I have friends that are very, very anti-Antifa as well. And you'd be like, doesn't that make them fascist? We'll learn about that today. That would be a black or white fallacy or false dichotomy. Okay, so in this case, one of my friends, this is actually a conversation that took place on Facebook. Antifa has never hurt anyone. And then, all right, here's a video of an Antifa guy hitting a journalist, Andy Ngo, who covers Antifa, and not in a flattering light, mind you. And they hit him with a bike lock, and he suffered brain damage as a result of it. And then the guy said, well, it doesn't count. He's a fascist. Right? So that would be a moving goalpost. As, evidence is presented contrary, you move what you originally claimed out of the way. And then I know a couple Antifa people who are unemployed. Therefore, Antifa is an organization for unemployed people or people that can't get a job or et cetera, et cetera. I've seen that made a number of times. Did my camera just barf? Okay. So I've seen that made for my conservative friends a number of times. So that is cherry picking. So what you do is you select a couple people out of, I don't know how many people are in Antifa. I don't think Antifa knows either because it's unorganized. You select a couple people and you say these examples are representative of the group, and this is very commonly done in the media. You pick a couple people, come on television, and have them stand in for the entire group of people, and that's cherry picking. You select just the examples you want. You say these examples stand for the rule, and then of course the opposite argument is those are the exceptions, not the rule, right? And so people dismiss narratives contrary to their own by saying, well, that's an exception. That's not what that's an exception to the group. That's not what the group actually stands for. And my video just barfed again. What's going on here? And neither of those arguments are valid, right? You have to do the statistics, and I don't think there's any statistics available on that, honestly. I don't think there's any comprehensive data on an organization because it's not organized. So, for example, my friend who was this guy, basically he said, there's a difference between Antifa and the black bloc people that wear the ski masks and all this kind of stuff. So it's a bigger organization. There's a smaller part that engages in physical violence and stuff like that. He said, don't confuse the two. And so he's saying that everybody who is equating Antifa with like hitting journalists with bike locks are confusing the part for the whole. And then, so there's fallacies both ways. Is it the exception that proves the rule, or is it the exception to the rule? And the upshot of it is, if you don't have stats, you basically are just speaking nonsense. You're just basically revealing what your prejudices are. I think unemployed people are, it's an organization for unemployed people. All right. Oh, cool. Do you have any numbers on that? No. Okay. Right. You don't know. I don't know. I don't think anybody knows, because I don't think there's actually any data on it. I could be wrong. If any of you guys can find data, let me know. I'd be interested in knowing what the average income and employment levels are of Antifa, if you guys have any data on that. Okay, so what fallacy is this? I don't like roller coasters. I think coasters should stay firmly planted on the table. Yeah, equivocation. So then we have the famous affirming the consequent and denying the antecedent fallacies as well. X implies Y, Y therefore X, that is affirming the consequent. If X, then Y, not X, therefore not Y, that's denying the antecedent. So these are the two kind of formal fallacies you guys should hopefully be, and most of you guys seem to be getting now, with implications. With the valid, invalid, and sound, the hit rates were a lot lower than I thought they would be, which is kind of interesting. So, rotten meat smells bad. That's true, I would say. I don't know. So a lot of people, more people thought, that's interesting. So anybody who said it's valid but not sound, are you guys arguing that rotten meat smells good? Right? Yeah. 3 times as many people thought it's valid, not sound. So, are you trying to argue that rotten meat doesn't smell bad? Because, I'm willing to have that conversation. It doesn't matter because the argument's invalid. So, whether or not it's valid or sound really doesn't matter. But it's just interesting to me that 34 to 11 put down valid versus sound. So, they thought the logic worked, but the premises are false, and I do not actually have rotten meat in my hand right now. So, I don't know. And so this is a rotten meat smells bad. If I have rotten meat in my hand, it smells bad. I do not have rotten meat in my hand, therefore I do not have something that smells bad. Yeah, I could have something else that smells bad in my hand, right? I could have, I don't know, some sort of medicine or something like that. It smells bad in my hand. So this is a denying the antecedent fallacy. And so when phrased like this, 82% of you guys got it. When phrased like this, 57% got it. It's the same fallacy. I put the two fallacies right next to each other. But when it's a word problem, it gets harder, you know. So, okay. Community pharmacies dispense medication. This is true. That's what community pharmacies do. Pablo works in a place that does not dispense medication. That is true. He's a friend of mine. And does not work in a place that dispenses medication. So, Pablo does not work in a community pharmacy. This is modus tollens. If X, then Y, not Y, therefore not X. That is a valid argument. Is it sound? Yes. Community pharmacies do dispense medication. That's what they do. Drugs, you know. Drugs. And so all the people that put down valid are basically arguing that community pharmacies don't dispense medication. And that they're saying the logic works, but community pharmacies don't dispense medication. And I don't see there being any way of arguing that, honestly. The people that said invalid were probably tripped up on the different, affirming the consequent, denying the antecedent, you know, kinds of things. No answer, I guess. Just guess, man. There's no penalty. Is this argument invalid, valid, or sound? Italy is a country in Asia. As it turns out, this is false. It is not actually the case that Italy is in Asia, which 11 people, I guess, said it's a country in Asia. So, I don't tell you. I guess there is a prerequisite for having some knowledge of geography in this class. I don't tell you. So a friend of mine, Erin, she is not from Asia. That's true. She's from San Diego, where I grew up. So Erin is not from Italy. So the logic on this works. Italy is a country in Asia, so X implies Y, not Y, therefore not X. Same argument as this one. Same form of the argument as this one. X implies Y, not Y, therefore not X. In this case, the premise is true, so it's sound. In this case, the premise is false, so it is valid. It is valid, but not sound. Okay? So, it's interesting that, like, even though it's the exact same form, a lot more people said it was invalid this way. Probably, and this is a psychological thing, right? Like, you know, they just look at that and be like, oh, it's invalid. That's not what it means. All right? Invalid doesn't mean, you know, it doesn't mean the premise is wrong. That's soundness. Validity is the form of the argument. Is it modus ponens, modus tollens, modus tollens? If it is, it's at least valid. It's at least valid. And then you have to say, okay, if it's valid, is it sound? Are the premises true? And as it turns out, Italy is not actually in Asia, as best as I can understand it. So, yeah, so sound is if the premises are true. So once you've determined it's valid, that's step one. Is it valid? And in both of these, it's the exact same form. It's the exact same form of the argument. If X, then Y, not Y, therefore not X. Valid. Then you have to determine, are the premises true? And I'm giving you one of them, right? So I'm giving you one of them in both cases, so you don't even have to worry about that one. So all you have to do is look at this. Is Italy a country in Asia? No. Okay, it's valid but not sound. What about this one? Do community pharmacies dispense medication? Yes. Therefore, it is valid and sound. Okay. Ireland is a country in Europe. True. And so the 17 people that said it was valid are arguing that it is not a country in Europe. So, as it turns out, Ireland is in Europe. It's in the European region, I guess. Is there a way to see your answers on the test? I don't think so. I could probably turn those on. If you want to see what you did. So, Ireland is a country in Europe. Erin is from Ireland. Erin is from Europe. Yes. So, valid form, straight deduction, modus ponens argument. And Ireland is, in fact, in Europe. So, okay. All mammals have hair, which is true. The coffee I am drinking is not a mammal. Also true. Has milk in it, almost as a mammal, but no hair. I hope. Bean juice isn't a mammal, yeah. Almost as good as tea juice, or leaf juice, yeah. Coffee I'm drinking is not a mammal. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Apparently 47 of you guys thought that the coffee I am drinking is a mammal. So, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. So, the coffee I'm drinking does not have hair. So, all mammals have hair. The coffee I'm drinking is not a mammal. Therefore, the coffee I'm drinking does not have hair. Now, this is a great example of how your brain will screw you up when it comes to invalid sound. It is possible that somebody put hair into my coffee anyway. Despite it not being a mammal, it could get hair a different way. The coffee I'm drinking is not a mammal is true, but this is all X have Y, not X, therefore not Y. This is denying the antecedent. Okay, it's an invalid argument form. Clearly, there could be hair in here another way, despite it not being a mammal. What just fascinates me though is the 47 people, like more people than put down sound. So since this is, I give this to you, that means 47 people believe that my coffee's a mammal. So I don't know. Yeah, you got me. You got me on that one. Can't explain. All right, so match the statement to the theory of truth the statement is using. What you're saying is factually true, but it'll hurt my political party, so it is false. Yeah, Marxist theory of truth. Right now, was it Mayor Cuomo in New York is being accused of sexual harassment. That's big news right now, and so Fox, which has a right-wing bent, is covering it a lot more than stations on the other side of the political spectrum. So there you go. Right? It may be true, but we're gonna ignore it, right? Because it'll hurt us politically. And then on the other side, you have the CPAC convention going on right now. Trump, I think, gave a speech this morning, and so they're bringing on commentators. One person from the Republican Party, one person from the Democrat Party, and it was almost like I have psychic powers. It's so crazy. I'm like, I bet the Republican is going to like what Trump said, and I bet the Democrat is not going to like what Trump said. And you know what? I was right. It was amazing. It's incredible. The one person's like, oh, he hit a home run here, and the other one's like, 500,000 COVID people dead. Well, what does that have to do with border crossings? Since they were talking about border crossings. Okay, yeah, It's amazing what kind of superpowers I have. All right, it's true that the electricity exists because if you stick your finger in an outlet, it'll hurt you. Yeah, this classic pragmatic theory of truth, right? So we don't need to worry about what an electron is. Is quantum theory correct? Is it, or are they particles with volume? It doesn't matter what electricity is. The fact of the matter is, if you stick your finger into an outlet, it'll hurt you. So that's pragmatic theory of truth in a nutshell. The classic example is gravity is real because if you fall off a building, you'll die, right? Assuming high enough, distance. It is true that snow is white because if you go and look at outside, well, it really is white. Yeah, this is actually the definition I gave in lecture. So for anyone who watched the midterm review, I believe that's actually the example I gave. I could be wrong, but that's in philosophy. That's actually the classic line, right? And what's really funny is that snow isn't white. Like snow is actually clear, right? If you look at one snowflake, it's transparent. It's crystal, right? So it's only white en masse, right? Like in a large amount, snow's white. And also, I've seen yellow snow, right? I've seen brown snow. So usually from dirt, thankfully. So you could probably argue that point that snow isn't actually white, but this is philosophy. We're learning philosophy in the classic correspondence theory of truth. Definition is the statement "snow's white" is true because it's white. It is true that Leonard Skinner is the greatest rock band of all time because it was voted so by a large online poll. That's consensus theory. So people vote on what is true or not, essentially. When we get into definitions, definitions oftentimes use consensus theory. If we all agree that this word means this, then it means it. This is coherence theory in math. Math typically uses coherence theory. You have a starting set of axioms, and then you can prove things that are true from it. Also, like in history, we typically accept things as true that match what we know about history as well. So when we find a diary and somebody says, yeah, Pearl Harbor was in 1944, we'd be like, no, I think this person's wrong. But if you found a lot of people all saying that Pearl Harbor was like, on a different day and, like in November instead, you'd be like, and then you start thinking about it. But yeah, very classically used in math. Saying something is true is basically meaningless. It just means you agree with them. That's literally what the deflationary theory of truth is. So it basically means there's really no such thing as what we call truth. It's just agreement. And then for the moral systems, 94% got that one. 63%, oof. So poor Kant. He can't help himself. It doesn't matter if you enjoy helping the homeless or not. You have an obligation to do it. Since helping others should be a universal rule, and that's the right there. That's the categorical imperative that I was talking about. So Kant believed the only actions you should take are those that could be universal. So if everybody helped the homeless, the world would be a better place. It'd be great. But if everybody just like stabbed random people on the street, then the world would be a terrible place. You shouldn't do it. Yeah. So virtue ethics, yeah. No. Helping the homeless to help us cultivate character traits of compassion and generosity, so we should do it. It's a little bit on the nose. Usually a virtue ethicist wouldn't phrase it exactly that way, but they would say that somebody who was a compassionate person would act that out in different ways, including perhaps going to a homeless feeding or something like that. It's more along the lines of how a virtue ethicist would actually phrase that. But I wanted to make it obvious what was going on here. And in virtue ethics, you're trying to cultivate, like you have different principles you want to live by, right? Courage and honesty and compassion, generosity, and the way that Aristotle put it is that there's a golden mean. There's between courage is sort of in between cowardice and like overconfidence, right? And so they try to cultivate this mean, not mean like I'm a bad person, but like the average, like in between the two extremes. Find a good happy medium, and cultivate those traits of, be generous, but don't give away all your money and become destitute and die, right? So, find that sort of happy medium in there. It would be a classic Nicomachean ethics from Aristotle. It's okay, yeah. Apologies to any utilitarians in here, because all the other ones are like, all these are like, good statements, and then poor utilitarians, like, sorry. But I did mention this in the midterm review, so I thought I'd throw that out there, is that utilitarianism has the problem, consequentialism has the problem of the ends justify the means, and so if you were to kill a homeless person to save the lives of 6 people, that would be a good action, right? So, that's Spock's sacrifice in Wrath of Khan. Sorry if you guys haven't seen the movie yet. Spock dies to save the lives of the Enterprise, and so that would be, but it was him voluntarily doing it, so it's not the same problem as this, where you're just like, yeah, no, we can save the lives of 6 politicians, we're just going to harvest people for parts, right? So that would be a utilitarian outlook, consequentialist outlook. Homeless people have the same rights, life, liberty, and property, natural rights. Yeah, you guys got that one. Okay. So, let's move on. Yeah. So we need to talk about Scribbles. Look at that. That's amazing. Okay. Let's see, side 1. New page. 3/1/21. Welcome to March. Days are just flying by. Just feels like February is a short month, huh? If you're struggling, don't worry. It's the way I would start. Like if you're having trouble with invalid, valid, and sound, is start by just learning the start by learning this, right? That's modus ponens. That's valid. X implies Y, not Y. Therefore, not X. That's modus tollens or twins. Okay. These are the two valid forms of argument. That's it. Right? The other ones are not. And so I would start by just really understanding that and then kind of working your way through the fallacies after that. Are you doing this again? Are you doing this to me again? No. All right. So what we're going to talk about today are called quantifiers. And quantifiers are, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. Maybe you learn that coffee's not a mammal. I don't know. Maybe that was too hard for you guys. I don't know. Okay. So I feel like it should be May. Yeah, with the weather. Yeah, it's nice. Okay. So what we're going to learn today is called quantifiers. And you should have done this in your Zybooks, I believe, for this week. So there's two quantifiers that are important. There's the backwards E, and there is the upside down A. Okay. And as I have told you guys before, math and logic people love coming up with weird symbols that look like, like a child who's trying to learn English for the first time just messed up, right? Like I'm gonna write, Now, is that a kid who wrote that, or is that a quantum physicist, right? It's hard to tell sometimes. So, backwards E means there exists. Okay. Upside down A means for all. So, these concepts are used a lot in real life and in logic and in computer science and I don't know. And they're things that these are sometimes called modal quantifiers. And no, sorry. These are no, we haven't gotten to modal quantifiers yet. These are existential quantifiers. Existential quantifiers. We'll do modal quantifiers next, probably. Existential quantifiers is the single greatest thing that people have trouble with online, as far as I can tell, in online arguments. There has been a good president from the opposing political party. Backwards E. Okay? There has been at least one good president from the opposing political party. Might be controversial these days because you look at where people used to be, like Democrats and Republicans were like this, and over the past 20 years it's become like this. Like there's the political views in America have actually bifurcated. Not necessarily for the better either. Since probably the 90s, I would say. So the past 30 years, maybe. And so maybe a statement like that is quite controversial. And I didn't even say which political party it was, right? I just said the opposing political party has had a good president in it. Right? And that is there exists. So there exists a president from the opposing party, which is just hilarious because it works. It doesn't matter what political party you're in. This argument works no matter what. There exists a president from the opposing party that was bueno. All right. So that's what the backwards E means. Okay. There exists at least one. Okay. There has been at least one. Could be 2, could be 10, could be all of them, but that's a very weak statement. Do you guys understand? Like it's a very mild statement to make. And yet it's somehow incredibly controversial to say that or to admit that, especially with like CPAC going on right now. To admit that there has been at least one, from the other party, It's like amazing. Um, Probably JFK. I think like maybe a lot of Republicans would like JFK. You know, not maybe it's not that controversial. Maybe I'm exaggerating a bit, but yeah, it's you know, it's a very weak statement, right? Backwards E means greater than or equal to 1. Right? That's all it means. There has been one president from the other party that has been good. Upside down A means, to the contrary, it means 100%. Okay? So there exists a president from the opposing party that was bueno, is a very weak statement, right? It's, you know, there only needs to be one for it to be true. Yeah. Then a strong statement would be for all presidents in my party, let's say in the last 40 years. For all presidents in my party in the last 40 years, they have been. Okay. So that is a strong statement, right? So this one, there exists a president from the opposing party that was good. For all presidents in my party, that's what upside down A means. It means 100%. Every single one of the presidents in my party from the past 40 years have been good. You guys understand the difference between them? Every single one. It is a much bolder claim. Yes, it is a much stronger claim. Every single one. Let's go through some examples. We'll see if, are they true or are they false? So remember, backwards E means greater than or equal to 1. There's at least one. There exists one. For all means all of them. And the reason why this is such a problem online is because most people have never taken critical thinking. And so what happens is that when they're engaged in an online argument, they get these two mixed up all the time. So what you're saying is, straw man. So what you're saying is you love all the presidents from the opposing party. No, I didn't say that. I said there's one, at least one or more. So what you're saying is you're actually a traitor to our party. No. That's not what I'm saying. Right? So let's give some examples. All right. There exists a cat with 4 legs. True or false? What do you guys think? There exists a cat with 4 legs. What do you guys think? So one is all or nothing, the other is partially true. It can be, yeah. For there exists, if it's all as well, right? There exists a square that has 4 sides. Yeah, sure. You know. Yeah, I would say it's true. Some of you guys are probably a little gun shy, like after the invalid, valid, and sound thing, right? Like, trust no one, trust nothing. Yeah, no, there does exist. I'm pretty sure there exists a cat with 4 legs. I got one outside of my window right now. Unless something has horribly gone wrong for it in the last 5 minutes, it still has 4 legs. Okay, so for all cats have 4 legs. Is it true that all cats have 4 legs? True or false? All cats have 4 legs. Yeah, unfortunately, there are 3-legged cats. Right? So, okay, so yeah, you guys got that. It's not actually that hard, I don't think. Like invalid, valid, and sound. Like I told you guys up front, like a lot of people get those wrong, and it's normal. It's normal because your English brain will screw with you, you know. Like, oh, Italy's not in Asia. It's invalid. Doesn't work that way. For this one, your English brain works pretty well. There exists a book that starts there exists a book by Shakespeare that is about monkeys. What do you think? There exists a book by Shakespeare that is about monkeys. Do you have a cat? I don't. My neighbors do. Which means I do. The cat's constantly like just walking around past my window here and see it in the backyard. And it's really funny because he thinks he's like super stealthy. And he's just like walking on the grass. And I'll be like, hey kitty. It's like, how did you see me? It runs off. Is there a book by Shakespeare about monkeys? True or false? Cat logic, exactly. Yeah. How did you spot me? I am so stealthy. True. All right. I'm going to ask for your evidence now. Please send me a hyperlink to a book by Shakespeare about monkeys. This is how argumentation goes, by the way. For all the people on there saying true, please post a hyperlink onto Discord supporting your claim that there is a book by Shakespeare about monkeys. I don't know, but okay. So first of all, Shakespeare didn't write any books, right? As far as I know, he wrote plays and he wrote poems. He didn't write any books, so that's kind of a starting point. See, Mr. Yeah. So yeah, so it's false. Okay. All works by Shakespeare are about monkeys. The infinite monkey theorem in popular culture. Sure, yeah. I mean, there's a question like, could infinite monkeys write all the works of Shakespeare? But it's not a book by Shakespeare, right? It's a ghostwriter. It's a ghostwriter. The monkeys are pretending to be Shakespeare. Become monkey. Shakespeare's monkeys. That's funny. Humans are classified as one of the 5 great ape species. Yeah, but he still didn't write any books, as far as I know. Okay. Are all works by Shakespeare about monkeys? I think apes and monkeys are not equivalent. So, if you want to argue that, yeah, about here, let's sure. About primates. Are all works by Shakespeare about primates? All right, for those of you at home, I gotta open that one up. That one's funny. There you go. That's brilliant. Are all works by Shakespeare about primates? See, it's really easy to prove. It's really easy to prove a for all false. You know what I mean? If I said all works by Shakespeare about fish, all you need to do is find one case where it's not about fish and it's false. But if you're going to try and prove that all works by Shakespeare are about primates, you got to go through all the works of Shakespeare. You know what I mean? I love this class too. Yeah, this is honestly my favorite class to teach because it's just really fun. And yeah, there's some things that'll cause smoke to come out of your ears. But I'd say my hunch is maybe it's true. all of his plays are about people. His poems are about people, I think. He wrote a lot of sonnets. Maybe some of them were about nature. I don't know. Right, I actually don't know the answer to this. My inclination is to guess that it's true, but I would actually have to go through all of his poetry. So it's a lot harder to prove a for each to be true, right? And same thing, like proving that there exists to be false is actually really hard. Does there exist a pin somewhere on the floor of my house? Well, it's easy if that, here. It's easy to prove that there exists to be true. Watch. Yeah, there exists a pin on my floor. Cool. But and there it went on my floor again. But to prove it false, proving there are no pins anywhere on the floor of my house, I would have to search through my entire house. I'd have to look behind the bookshelves and look underneath the couch. You know what I mean? Like, it's really easy to prove a for all to be false, and it's very easy to prove that there exists to be true. But the opposite actually requires a lot of work. And that's where we're going to end today. Does that make sense? So to prove a negative is actually really hard. It's a lot of people say it's impossible to prove a negative, but that's not the case. I can actually pretty systematically search my house and no, there's no pins on the ground. Right? You can prove a negative. It just takes a lot of work. And for all, in order to prove that all presidents in the past 40 years have been good, well, you just kind of go through them all. All right, if you're a Democrat, you like Carter and Clinton and Obama, right? It's only, 3 of them? Am I missing any? Biden. Right? And so, you just go through and say, I like Carter, I like Clinton, I like Biden, Obama. And Obama, of course, right? So, you prove those 5 presidents to be, if you prove, however, make an argument they're all good, then you've proven a for all. But to disprove a for all is very easy, right? If one of them you didn't like Carter, let's say, who didn't do a very good job maintaining the economy, let's say, then it's easy to disprove, right? So all you need is one counterexample to disprove a for all. But to prove it to be true, you have to go through every example. Go through every sonnet by Shakespeare. Go through every play by Shakespeare. And make sure that all of them are about primates. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of work to prove this to be true. Right? Just like it's very easy to prove this to be true. All you have to do is show that there's a play. Like, if I change this to be there exists, yeah, it's clearly true, right? Yes, it's true, right? Because there's at least one play of The Tempest, right? It's about a primate. Right? Is Ariel? Yeah, it had primates in it, right? So, yeah. So it's very easy to prove there exists to be true, right? But to prove 100% are true, you got to do some work. You got to do some legwork. We're going to have a quiz this week? Yeah, sure. I'll put up a little quiz on there exists and for all, just to see if you guys kind of get it. That's it for today, though. I keep forgetting Biden is our president. I know, right? Like, I got up early this morning to go get my COVID shot. Yeah, Obama was a president for 8 years. How about that, huh? Okay, and Biden's our current president. Yeah, it's Carter and Clinton, right? Okay, so I will put up a quiz on these existential quantifiers, and you'll kind of see if you get it or not. Okay, and we'll just do that for next time, and then probably next class we'll talk about modal quantifiers as well. But these are real important, guys. They come up all the time, and everywhere. Right? If you're just making an argument, if you're making a claim, it's really important to know the difference between sometimes and always. Right? When would the midterm grade be fixed? Right now. I'm going to go fix the grades right now. Okay? Will we have any homework this week? Just the quiz for now. And then probably textbook reading as well. Okay. I think probably on Friday we'll do the next programming assignment. But we'll see how Wednesday goes. Okay. All right. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you had a good time. And stay safe.